Hey everyone, this is Jen and you're watching BPD Woman. On this channel, you will learn how to more effectively manage your borderline personality disorder. It's my goal to help you recognize triggers, understand your emotions, keep them more tempered, make more effective decisions, and help you lead a more fulfilling life in love, career, emotional stability, whatever your goals are. I impart my wisdom, experience, and knowledge, which I've accumulated over the last 21 years of being diagnosed and living with the disorder. So I'm not a psychologist or a therapist, but I can answer one important question that most of those folks cannot, which is, what is it like to live with borderline personality disorder? And I'd also like to mention, I've met a lot of therapists and psychologists, I mean, dozens in my lifetime. And most of them probably spent like a week in college discussing personality disorders. I'm generalizing here, but not everyone is an expert. And I just want to say that, I've explained, even to some DBT PhD candidates that were studying in college, for, the graduate level, I've explained to them some skills. So just because you're not a therapist or psychologist doesn't necessarily mean that the person of authority has more knowledge than you. Okay, just putting that out there. Anyway, if that all sounds good, please hit subscribe and the bell below so that you never miss a beat. I produce anywhere from 3 to 5 videos each week, all something a little new. Excuse me. So I've started letting the, I have a dog and I started letting the dog in. I love you. I know, please don't look at me like that. And some of you were like, oh yes, keep the dog in. So I do. And then she like brings in the loudest moan. And I don't know if the mic is picking it up, but it certainly becomes distracting to me. I know. She's like, why did you take my bone? Anyway, so let's get going. Today I want to do just a quick update. I've done several videos now, talking to the topics of, is it you or them when you have a dysregulated relationship, how keeping some people in your life can actually contribute to your borderline personality disorder. And I'll put all of these links up as I talk about them. So I did one not long ago. It was about dysregulated relationships. Is it me or them? Maybe about a week ago, I put out a video about family and why I don't speak to my family and why that has done nothing but improve my recovery. And I also, maybe in the last week or so, did a video called the flip-flop game, which in part helps to explain why we make a decision when we have borderline, why we make a decision and then we flip-flop. We, break up with somebody and then we let them back in our life, and then we break up with them again, and then the cycle repeats. And this could be anything, you could decide that you're tired of hanging out with a friend, but then you keep going back. Or you may make a decision that, no more are you going to say yes, yes, yes to whatever request your boss gives you at work, right? But then you do anyway. And so when you give in, when you don't want to give in to these requests, or to your feelings, you end up feeling, well, at least in my case, shamed, angry, disappointed. You feel self-disappointment, resentment, nothing helpful. And if your goal is to recover from BPD and to choose more effective patterns of behavior, then you have to also surround yourself with people who are also doing that. So, if you're trying to quit alcohol, you don't hang around, generally, a bunch of heavy drinkers, right? If you are a recovering drug addict, you don't hang out with your old drug-using buddies at your old drug-using sites. You just change your behaviors. That's the first step, really, the skills and the knowledge and the practice of the skills, that comes later and that gets easier with time. I'm a testament to that. Sometimes I don't even think about, You know, yesterday I had a conversation with someone where I used all my Dear Man skills, and Dear Man is a technique out of the interpersonal effectiveness module in DBT, where, you know, I described what I needed, I did it unemotionally, I asked him if that worked for him, he reinforced me, I reinforced him, I was mindful, we negotiated, I validated him, great convo, relationship intact, I got what I wanted. So those kinds of experiences help me along my recovery, and they make me feel more masterful, and they give me hope. And I want to follow up on these 3 other videos that I talked about, the dysregulation, the family video, and the flip-flop game, because I want to talk about a real-world experience briefly here today that I have come across. So I started, and I've talked about her before in my videos, and I'll give you a brief history here. Let's keep this to a minute or less. I met her 2 years ago as a result of her becoming one of my clients. Slowly, over time, we became friends. Last Christmas, we spent Christmas evening together. We watched a movie. It was fun. But slowly but surely, over the course of our interactions, I could see that she was dealing with some pretty serious mental health issues, that she really, truly wasn't... Hey, baby. Have a kiss? That was a weak kiss. I could see that there was a lot of serious mental health issues that she truly wasn't trying to address. And so I would make excuses, or maybe not excuses at first, but as time went on, I would say, okay, well, you know, I've had BPD and I haven't wanted people to leave me when I've had poor behaviors. You know, I wanted people to be really patient. And so I tried to enact the behaviors that I wanted out of other people when I was trying to recover, like patience, you know, understanding, compassion, healthy boundaries. And recently, back in, I don't know, the summer now, so about 5-6 months ago, she moved into my building. And she's always lived across the street. It's never been a really big deal. But she moved into my building. I told her about it. I was like, hey, you should live here. It's much nicer than where you've been living. And so she lives actually down the hall. So not only is she a neighbor, she's a super close neighbor, and she is still a client. So because of our increased interactions, our increased face-to-face time, especially with the pandemic, I mean, she's pretty much one person that I've seen consistently or hung out with, or, you know, maintained some physical contact. It's only gotten worse. The interactions have only become more negative, and there have been, and I'll just name a few quick fly, but there have been, the progression here is that I have felt worse after our interactions hanging out than I have felt good or fulfilled or happy. And for me, that's not what I want out of a friendship relationship. I don't want to feel drained. I don't want to feel like I'm questioning it. And, you know, that was one of the, in the, I believe it was the flip-flop game, don't quote me, but I talked about, you know, why we keep going back and forth and making decisions. And sometimes for me, it's been, I think my BPD is doing the talking, which means, you know, I know that I have a tendency to use black and white thinking. I know I have a tendency to end relationships quickly. I know I have a tendency to blow them up and then be like 3 months later, oh, why did that friendship only last 2 months? And so you try to stop that cycle by doing opposite action behavior. So not blowing up the relationship, not leaving, trying to talk it through, trying to make amends. And I have done that, but sometimes you can do that too long. Sometimes that can go on too long and you're like, well, I've been trying for a year or 2 years and nothing's getting better. Well, at that point you have to make a decision, you know, do I continue or do I not? For me, I have really been struggling with that. And so, you know, there have just been so many instances where I have felt let down, or, you know, she just leaves abruptly, or she's rude. I asked her to look in on my pets, and she did, but she promised that she would give my dog 2 30-minute walks, and she only let her out for 10 minutes at a time. You know, it was these little letdowns and like, And finally, things have been okay. They've been better. You know, we made up till a week ago, we were making plans to spend Christmas evening again together. And, you know, she asked me what I wanted for Christmas, and I asked her what she wanted for Christmas. And, you know, I'm leaving out a lot of detail here about what's led up to all of these interactions, but I can tell you that it has been absolutely, for me, sometimes feeling like I'm walking on eggshells. And additionally, I have left her place several times or after interaction dysregulated. You know, check out that dysregulation video. Is it me or is it them? I leave feeling dysregulated. I have felt crying a few times. But, you know, these abandonment issues, along with this, you know, try not to let my BPD do the talking, tells me, okay, give it another try, do another chance, you know, let it see through. And so finally I had an interaction several days ago that really put the cork in it, so to speak. It was really clear. You know, sometimes you just have an interaction or something that happens and it's, lay down, and it's super clear. It's super clear, good girl. And for me, this interaction happened sometime this week. I think it was earlier in the last week, where I have been really working a lot. I think like most people, struggling, worrying about finances during the pandemic. And so I was really upset one morning and I was feeling really dysregulated. And this was like in the morning. And keep in mind, she lives down the hall from me. She's not far away. And I was texting her in the morning and I was like, she's like, how are you doing today? And I was like, I'm not good. I'm feeling really dysregulated. And I don't break down a lot anymore. Like I don't break, you know, I don't burst in the door like I used to. Like, I have an emergency, please talk to me. I have BPD. You know, now it's like, hey, are you busy? Like, is this a good time? You know, I ask first. I don't just like, they don't pick up the phone. I just blurt everything out. So it was an interaction like that, you know. So we were texting and I had to leave. Again, I was rushing off to another job. And I finally got to the car and like, I came through the lobby and this asshole without a mask sneezed in the middle of my building lobby. And I'm like, I don't know, that just like set me over the edge. I was like, I don't want to die. And I went out to my car and I just started sobbing. And I knew that she was home. I could see that she was home. So I called her and she picked up and I'm like, and she could, you know, I was like, hey, you know, I was already in tears. And I was like, hey, and she goes, I said, is this a good time? And she goes, well, not exactly, but is it an emergency? And I was like, kind of. And she's like, what's going on? And I just started sobbing. And, you know, I just kind of like let everything out and I was talking and maybe it was about 45 seconds went by and I was crying and I was thinking, I'm really worried about money and I'm worried about this and I feel like I'm at my breaking point and I'm not sleeping. And you know what she did? She hung up on me. She fucking hung up the phone. She did not say, hey, it's a really bad time. I got my boss on the other line. Can I call you back? She didn't say, I don't want to hear your problems and hang up. She didn't say anything. She just hung up the phone. And it was so abrupt that I was like, oh, maybe just the carrier dropped the call. Maybe the call just got dropped. So I texted her. And again, she's just upstairs. Like I'm in the parking lot of the building. She's just upstairs. And I was like, did you just hang up on me? No reply. So I was like, okay, maybe this was an honest mistake or maybe her battery died, right? Like I've jumped to that conclusion before, like you hung up on me and you know, people be like, no, actually my battery died. I'm like, okay. So I don't try to just assume something has happened anymore, progression. So I said, okay, did your battery die? And then I tried calling her back. So now this is all in the span of like a minute or so or 2 minutes and she hung up on me. And she sent the call to voicemail. Like it rang a few times and she sent it to voicemail. So I knew that it wasn't a dead phone. So the last text I wrote to her on a personal front was, wow. It became so clear to me in that moment. In fact, it like sobered me up out of my dysregulation because I knew I had to move on to the next thing. I knew how to be like, okay, gotta go to work, gotta make the money. Like I was getting offers. I have to go. And I just thought, who the fuck does that? Huh? You know, you know, 30 minutes ago, you're asking me what you can do. 2 days ago, you're asking me what I want for Christmas. And right now you've hung up the phone because what? You don't want to be bothered? My crying bothers you? Well, no, you have to get the fuck out. GTFO. Bye-bye. That for me was the most clear indication, like, this is not okay. And this has got to end. And I don't care what your excuse is, you know, unless you're being mauled by a tiger or, you know, the kidnappers from the Taken movies have like snatched you and your phone is dropped. I just can't see what possible reason you would have to hang up on me. And it's not okay. And that for me was the healthy time to cut out someone. I was like, no. So there are times when cutting people out becomes super clear. You may have a progression. You may preemptively be cutting someone out because of your BPD and you split or you know, implode a relationship. And so you give it a little bit more time. And I've given it plenty of time. I've seen a nice big timeline with her, almost 2 years, over 2 years. And it became clear, I'm like, no, this is not okay. In fact, this is borderline abuse from her. Not like borderline personality, but like she is edging on abusing me, you know? And about 30 minutes later, 40 minutes later, like when I was already into my shift and now it wasn't a good time for me to talk. And also like I knew I was going to say something nasty, so I didn't pick up the phone. She tried calling me back, sent her to voicemail. She didn't say anything. She's still a client, so I still had to walk her dog that day. But, you know, for me, I've become quite good at like splitting my personal life from my professional life. So I have a few clients that are friends, but should we not be friends, I could just look at them as a client. Like that's not a problem for me. So I walked her dog, you know, she said she actually like kind of hovered in her back bedroom, which she normally doesn't do. I think probably to avoid a confrontation with me. But at that point, I was like, there's nothing to talk about for my side. Like, you have treated me consistently poorly. I have felt worse and worse and worse after our interactions. She literally makes no effort. I mean, I have turned her on to different therapists. She has said she's going to go to some kind of like behavior group and then she drops it. She doesn't want to do it. She is perfectly happy being miserable in her apartment. I really mean that. Like, I'm not even mocking her. Like, she doesn't care. She has said, I really don't care. She doesn't care if she hurts people's feelings. You know, she was giving me all the signs, and I finally just tuned into all of them. You know, people are like, oh, I don't care what that person thinks about me. And, like, I don't care if I hurt someone's feelings. And, you know, you think, oh, do you really mean that? She really means it. And so this is the healthy time for me to cut her out because otherwise I'm going to feel bad. I'm going to be second-guessing myself. I'm going to feel continually dysregulated, and I'm going to stick in a BPD cycle, and I don't want to. And you know what happened the next day? One door closes, another door opens. The next day, our boiler went out in our building, and so we had no heat or no hot water. And, you know, neighbors that I didn't even realize I'd given my phone number to were texting me like, hey, are you out of hot water? You know, I mean, I suddenly got reconnected to like 3 or 4 neighbors, one of which is my direct neighbor who I'd actually like to develop a personal relationship with. So see, like one door closes, another door opens, opportunities present, and these can become opportunities to build healthy relationships. I do not feel bad. She did text me, this woman did text me a few days later, or maybe it was that evening. It was some lame apology. I'll put the screenshot up here. You know, it was like, oh, I was in a whirlwind and like I made a disrespectful decision. It's lame. You know, you say what you did wrong, how you're going to fix it next time, but there was no indication of that. You know, apologies are empty without some kind of clear way forward. And so I was like, this is a waste of my time. I don't want to do this. So this is just an example of some real world action about what cutting out people looks like. And it's a healthy decision and it keeps you regulated. My name is Jen. You've been watching BPD Woman. Please consider subscribing. Check out those other videos that I mentioned. I find them pretty interesting and helpful. And until I see you next time, in whatever you do, please be effective. Bye-bye.